Hello, my name is Martina Mörtner. I'm a visiting MBA fellow at the Center for Digital Strategies at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College. I'm pleased to welcome Collin Douma, Vice President of Social Media at Proximity BBDO, who is joining us today as part of the BRITS Technology Impact Series. What are some of the big challenges or opportunities the advertising industry is facing as the push paradigm adjusts to more of a two-way conversation?
So the big shift that's upon us is this idea of push dying, which is a false notion. Push is not dying. Push is a very effective way of reaching consumers. The conversation is also misinterpreted, I think. The idea of a two-way conversation suggests that it's actually one-to-one. And I think that's also a little bit overestimated as to what you need to do in this space. Really, social media can start to look very predictable when you get familiar with the numbers. And it's almost metric. And what I mean by that is, for every one post you can get a consumer to do for you, like if somebody says something about your brand, you can average it out here and there, sometimes thousands, sometimes millions, sometimes a few. It averages out to about 100 views, 100 impressions. So 1 to 100. So really it's not 1 to 1, it's 1 to 1 to 100. So think of it like that. So if you have a community manager and they're speaking on behalf of your brand and they're actually out there in the space and they're talking with people and they're reaching out to bloggers and they're talking to consumers, each one of those things generates a lot of impressions. If you're doing it on a place like Twitter, that impression count is just on steroids because it goes through the roof. A tweet can reach easily 45, 50,000 people if you have, only a few thousand followers with a couple of retweets. It's amazing how far that message can get. So the conversation of push versus two-way is kind of, again, trying to make apples to apples. It's not apples to apples. You need to keep those apples over here, and now we have this new fruit salad that we have to figure out. Oh, I got metaphors. And when we start looking at what that fruit salad is, understanding that it's going to be slightly different for Twitter, it's going to be slightly different for YouTube, it's going to be slightly different in Facebook, it's going to be slightly different in blogger outreach, it's going to be slightly different in crisis versus amplification. There's really only 3 ways you can have a conversation. And we've only been doing it one way for a long time in advertising, and that is yelling, right? You can walk into a room and you can yell fire and people will be motivated to probably leave the building, and advertisers have been doing that for a long time. You can also walk into the room and whisper fire to the manager, who will then yell fire for you, and he'll yell fire for you, and you'll actually create some sort of influence, and then people will be motivated to leave the room. Or you can start the fire. And those are the 3 ways of having the conversation, and social media is actually all 3 of those things, if you think about it. The loud push, the viral video type approach, or the really clever creative idea, it's very advertising. The whispering to the manager and asking for his influence is very PR. And lighting the fire is the responsibility of the clients themselves, and actually creating a product that people want and that they care about and they can get behind. A client once asked me, "Oh, Collin, what if they don't like this? What if we've just created a system where they're going to amplify negativity? What then?" And I said, "Well, is your product crap? Because if it is, or if it fails in any way, count on it." "Oh, we're fine. Okay, it's on you then." You need to be creating products that people care about. Don't amplify it in the social space if you don't like your own product, because why will they? And that's really the secret to this. And hopefully social media will help improve products. The best clients are doing that already, listening and responding by creating a better product, starting a better fire.
In your view, will our social lives and interactions continue to take place primarily via our laptops and computers, or do you see 1 or 2 platforms as being particularly well suited to supporting social campaigns?
Yeah, this is the platform conversation that keeps coming up. Where should we be? Everybody talks about mobile. They've been talking about mobile for 10 years, how mobile is going to revolutionize everything. And basically what it took was to make your mobile as good as a computer, and then we're there. So I don't necessarily know that the conversation should be about what platform are we on. I think it depends on what product are you trying to get across or what message are you trying to get across. I think the conversation should rather be what is the behavior that you're trying to align with. So in the mobile space, you might end up on a mobile phone because you're a retailer and you're really interested in speaking with somebody at the moment of purchase or at the moment of decision making. So that makes a lot of sense that you would end up in mobile. Maybe you're talking to somebody who spends most of their time browsing at the office. So you would probably spend a lot of your energy and efforts towards the basic web approach, you know, through laptops and computers. So basically understanding consumer behavior and aligning to it to build up influence and change that behavior is the secret. And don't spend a lot of time looking at the latest app on the iPhone platform. Because although you should be up on that stuff and be aware of it, the real secrets are not going to lie within the apps. It's going to lie within the understanding the consumer behaviors, and you'll develop the apps, or you'll develop the right program to meet that behavior.
Looking forward in the next 1 to 2 years, how do you predict the use of social technologies will evolve?
The evolution of social media is definitely going to be that the term social media will fade. Ask anybody who works at a newspaper or at a network television or at an advertising agency on Madison Avenue. We all know that social media is digital, and digital is communications. So does it matter that it comes on paper? Does it matter that it comes through the air? Does it matter that it comes through a wire? Does it really matter? It doesn't really matter, I don't think. And my estimation is that even as soon as 2 years, that will mean less and less. In 5 years, certainly, the conversation about how you get it will be not so much the topic of the day, but rather what's the quality of it. And when we start looking at content filters and the New York Times becomes the person who, the organization that moderates the right content, the content you can actually trust, as opposed to being the sole content creator of that content, that's probably the big shift. Apply the same model to network television. Google TV is this Christmas. Consumer-generated television is this Christmas. Like, it's not that far away. Mass adoption of this stuff is already happening with the under 30 crowd. Those people aren't getting any younger. So the 1 to 2 year, I'd be looking at how can we find the curve to get ahead of it? And I always struggle with that one.
Thank you very much for coming to the Center of Digital Strategies at the TUC School of Business at Dartmouth and to the Brit Technology Impact Series.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.